What's up, y'all? This is lukegtv, and I am your host, Luke G. Today's video is going to be about what it feels like to do heroin for the first time. What it feels like to do heroin after a relapse, and what it feels like to do heroin during active addiction. Now, let me make this clear. This is not medical advice. I am not telling you to try heroin. I am not telling you to do heroin. I'm not telling you to be around heroin at all. This is a completely informative health harm reduction video. This is not for anyone to go mess around with, you guys, because heroin has ruined my life through and through. I started when I was 19 years old, and look at me now. I'm 31. And I'm in a sober living, sleeping with some 70-year-old dude who's been here for 27 years and hasn't had a job, hasn't had anything. That's where my best behavior gets me. So I'm just letting you guys know this is an informative video, and I'm just doing it to put information out to the public. What's up, y'all? This is Luke from lukegtv. About to make a video. Walking down the street, walking down Pillsbury Avenue, South Minneapolis, downtown, south side, we outside. Let's get it. Alright, man, today's video, I haven't done a video like this, but it was suggested to me by a friend. His name is Daniel. His channel is Veterans with Anxiety. If you haven't checked his channel out already, go check that shit out. That shit fire. Today's video is gonna be about what it feels like to do heroin. And what I'm gonna start out with is what it felt like to do heroin for the first time for me. And the first time I did heroin, I did China white heroin, and I snorted it. Insufflated, I think is the proper term for it. But yeah, man, I was with one of my best friends. I was in the back of a Taco Bell parking lot in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I snorted a line of China white heroin. The first line, I felt it a little bit, it felt kind of like a mild little Percocet buzz. I had done those before, and I told my buddy, I was like, dude, I need more. I was like, I'm trying to really get messed up here. So he bust me out the way your body was just warm, and like I could literally feel the heat coming from my toes up. The best way I can describe it is I felt this not only warm physically, but warm mentally. And I felt so comfortable. I felt like every worry, anxiety, depressive thought, everything that was on my mind that day was no longer there. I felt great. But after about 20 minutes of this blissful ignorance, I started to get extremely sick. And I was puking about 3 times every hour on the hour. I went back home and basically just laid in bed. And then I started to have vivid dreams. It's when you're dreaming, you're like half awake, half asleep, and you can control your lucid dreams. I was lucid dreaming. I was so high. I was nodding in and out, and I could control my dreams. And this was in between puking. I was extremely sick. And I had done opiates before. I'd done oxys a couple times. I'd done this and that. But at this point in time in my life, I was more of a Xanax guy and a cocaine guy. I was like, that was all right, but I don't like the nausea. And so I stayed away from it for a while. But this was about 2009. And more of my friends started to do heroin, right? And I sold a lot of weed back then. That was kind of my hustle. So I mean, this was kind of a scumbag thing to do, but I figured, dude, everyone's doing this shit. I might as well capitalize on it. And I started selling it. Basically what happened was, 2009, 2010, the Mexicans, I guess you could call them paisas, they sold a lot of heroin on the street. They sold black tar balloons, they sold coke, and they would also sell $10 balloons of coke too. So you could buy $10 balloons of black, $10 balloons of coke, or you could buy 50s, which were grams. It was either 10s or 50s. It was kind of a weird system, but basically how you got a hold of these guys is you called a main dispatch, and the dispatch would tell you, usually they'd have you meet around 22nd and Aldrich over South Minneapolis. If any of you guys are from Minneapolis, you know where that is. It's in Uptown. Nicer part of the city. They'd usually meet you around there, and the guy that you... Sorry, I'm crossing the street. The guy that you would meet up with was not the same guy that was the dispatch on the phone. The guy that you would meet up with was an illegal immigrant, most likely, did not speak English, and he would say, how many? And it was big ones were the 50s, which were grams, and small ones were 10. And you would say, I want 3 big ones and 2 small ones, or I want 2 big blacks and 2 small whites, or whatever. And I kid you not, the dude would have a glass of water in the cup holder, and he would spit the balloons out. They were like double, triple rep balloons. So in case he got busted by the cops, he could swallow those balloons and they would not open up in his stomach, and he could, shit them out or puke them back out, or however he wanted to get them back out, he could do that. So anyways, long story short, I start selling this black tar heroin, right? But I'm not doing it. I'm making a lot of money. I mean, I'm picking up an 8-ball and I'm tripling my money, going to the city and bringing it to the suburbs. And one of my customers comes over one day and he's like, hey, can I smoke a little bit in your house? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So he busts out the tinfoil and he's like, you want to try a hit? And for whatever reason that day, I was like, you know what? Sure, F it, why not? And I don't know what it was, but it was like the stars aligned in the universe. And when I hit that shit, that was when the instant I was hooked. And plus I had I always had a supply to it, right? So I always had it, and yeah, it was always, so by that time I was doing it every day. But the difference is when you're in active addiction and you're using it, your tolerance, because when you first start doing heroin, it's actually a relatively cheap drug. I mean, like $30 or $40 can last you multiple days depending on your plug. But very quickly that goes away and you start needing more and more. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you still feel the euphoria when you're in active addiction, but it lessens and lessens, and the duration of that euphoria shortens. The more weeks that you go on using, that euphoria shortens. And eventually, after months and months of using it, it becomes, it literally becomes, you just get a rush and maybe like a 20-minute high afterwards, and then it's just done. And then you're just not sick. You're just not going through opioid withdrawal. But I didn't really know what opioid withdrawal was when I first started. I mean, I did, but I was just kind of ignorant to it. So, eventually the plug got busted or something. Yeah, he did. He actually got federally indicted. And so I was just sick as shit. And yeah, man, it really sucked. So yeah, man, that's basically how it is for when you relapse. Now, let's say you've been an opioid addict for many years, and then you get sober for like 6 months, and you go back to use it. You pretty much go back to, well, it depends on how long you quit for. If you only quit for 6 months, your receptors aren't completely healed yet. So yeah, your first like 3-4 days, 5 days, you'll still have a low tolerance and it'll be cheap, but your tolerance will shoot back up even quicker than it did when you first started using. So you got to be really careful, because especially if you're using IV, because, you know, and I would suggest if you haven't used, you know, you've been sober for 6 months to a year, or just any period of time really, or if you just got out of jail, I wouldn't even start IVing it. And there's a few reasons why. One is obviously for safety, because it's just so easy to overdose and it's so easy to miscalculate your dose. Another reason is when you don't have an opioid tolerance. Sorry for the noise, I'm right over the highway right now. But when you don't have an opioid tolerance, like you can only shoot so much or you're gonna overdose. So like doing really small shots of heroin, like it isn't that euphoric. It's actually much more euphoric to just smoke it or snort it when you have a low tolerance. So yeah, part of it is for safety, but part of it I've learned is actually just, it's more for just practicality, and it's just more efficient when you're getting back into it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And like if you're doing, especially if you're doing fentanyl, even if you have a tolerance with fentanyl, if you're getting a new batch, you should always put a little chunk on some foil, smoke it, and, you know, take a big hit of it, hold it in, whatever. And if it gets you completely faded off that one hit, then that's extremely pure, strong fentanyl, and you should never shoot that stuff because it will kill you. I've seen it happen to my ex-girlfriend. She overdosed off one hit of fentanyl. It was, I concur that it was most likely some analog of carfentanil. There's about 16 analogs of carfentanil. But yeah, she overdosed off one hit. So, I mean, sometimes even that one hit test isn't safe enough, you know? So, you know, the bottom line is, one way or another, there isn't really any safe way to do heroin. But I like to put this information out there because I know when I was younger, no one was going to tell me nothing about stopping doing it. So there might as well be safe information on how to use it. And that's a big part of what we do here at lukegtv. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much about it. I'm about to go to class, about to go to college, figure a few things out. I've been really enjoying the engagement and comments you guys have been leaving. They've been encouraging. So have a nice day. Have a blessed day. Stay free. Stay clean. I'm out. This lukegtv. Peace.